Mangel, and I'm the Director of Alumni Relations. Welcome to the Fall 2021 season of St. Ben's at Home, where we will bring you all the important news from campus. As we get started with this first episode tonight, let's take care of a bit of housekeeping. Please note that there will be time for questions towards the end of the presentation. So if you have anything to ask Transitional President Hamen, please click the Ask a Question button at the bottom of your screen. Please note you may need to exit out of the full screen view in order to see the Ask a Question button. This session will be recorded and posted on our Alum Learning Consortium's past events recordings page in 2 to 3 business days. Now please welcome our moderator for today's session, Kathy Hansen, Vice President of Institutional Advancement.
Thank you, Anne, and welcome to all of you for joining us for this very first episode in our fall series of St. Ben's at Home. And tonight we're just really pleased to welcome back our transitional president, Laurie Hamen. We're just talking about how this is her third appearance, and I know all of you enjoyed the chance to hear from her and hear about what's going on. You may remember last year, as we were all working from home, we rolled out what became this monthly series of live webinars that we called St. Ben's at Home. And this fall, we're back on a very vibrant, active, academically inquisitive college campus. And our alumni and friends have said they want more. So we're continuing our St. Ben's at Home series, and we're going to be bringing you on a monthly basis updates from campus and really interesting and we hope lively conversations with leadership on campus, alumni, students, to inspire, to educate, and entertain you all. So I'm going to start tonight's presentation with a series of questions for President Hamen. And then, of course, as Anne said, we'll be opening it up to questions from all of you at the end of our program. So, ready to get started, Laurie?
I am. Thanks, Kathy.
Well, I think people are just always really interested in knowing what is happening on campus. And this last year was so very different for all of us, including those of us here at St. Ben's. And we're wondering, what does back to school look like this fall?
I think you'd be so pleased at what back to school looks like this fall. We are back to in-person learning with 4 or 5 courses, not a one course at a time, which worked out well for last year, but I think students are really glad to be back to our regular schedule. The thing that students said to us at the end of the year last year is we want to be able to socialize with our friends, to be back to going to athletic events, music events, theater events, and so forth. And so we really made it a priority to try to make the school opening as normal as we possibly can during a time of pandemic. We did our candle lighting ceremony in person this year, which was absolutely beautiful. And we'll be doing Benedict and Friends. All the things that we missed tremendously last year are back. There's some things which we'll talk about of how we might be doing some things differently, but we're back to Mass. We're back to being in our beautiful chapel with our sisters. We're back to athletic competition. We're back to study abroad. And it's very exciting. The students are loving it.
It feels so much more normal, right, than what we're doing. And we know students wanted to get back to that, and faculty and staff as well, as for sure. It is, though, kind of unique this year because last year, our current sophomores, right, were studying in this virtual or hybrid or in the block schedule, as you mentioned, way. And our first year students this year, of course, are coming off a senior year in high school that may have been, either remote learning or hybrid or, virtual too. So, nobody in our first year or sophomore classes had what we would consider a typical year of school. Yeah. And for a lot of these students, it might be a year and a half since they've actually been in a classroom surrounded by students with a flesh and blood teacher up in front of them. And so knowing all of that this is a big change in some ways for these students. What are we doing, I guess, to provide that, how are they doing in the classroom and what kind of support are we providing them to kind of ensure they're the full person wellness, I guess.
You bet. Well, it's interesting because this is the kind of education that our students have told us they wanted. So, first and foremost, the enthusiasm for what they're doing is really high. But second, I would say the enthusiasm amongst our faculty is superior to that. This is what they live for, to have a student face-to-face experience as normal as possible, to inspire students. And so there was nothing that had to be done with faculty. They were ready to go and had retooled their classes and done things that only very, very enthusiastic people would have done. So I can't give the faculty enough credit. They've really risen to the occasion. And you could tell on the first day of class, particularly at convocation, how much the faculty were looking forward to being back in the classroom with their students. But we know that this has been a hard time of transition back, and for many students, maybe the first time they've been in class for 18, 20 months. And so we've, Barb May, one of our academic deans, done some things with our academic support that are really beneficial. So there's more academic support connected with courses, more people available to help. We hired a new and old person to do our accessibility services, coming back after a stint away, coming back to St. John's and St. Ben's. And so particularly, I feel very confident about our work with accessibility for students, because in some cases that has been a population that has sort of had a difficult time making the transition back and forth, and really came here for an in-person experience. Same thing with mental and physical health. We know that for many of our students, mental and physical health has suffered during this time. And I'm happy to report that we have certainly kept up and even made some overtures towards additional counseling services on both of our campuses. We made a really big change in health services, which I'm happy to report. Obviously, we've always had COVID coordinators, and now we have another COVID coordinator, new COVID coordinator that we will be hiring. But I want you to know that today we actually cut the ribbon on the St. John's Health Center. Why is that important for St. Ben's? It is because that we are finally, for the first time, actually having our health services run by the same individuals. So we very much beefed up our health center staff. And so they are working both at St. Ben's and at St. John's, going back and forth, being able to be nimble in how they staff up at the both places, but also students will be able to be seen at both places for free. And that is a big, very big improvement to the physical health. And at St. John's, they're right next to each other, our mental health and physical health. One of the things that I think is really important, the same at St. Ben's, is we have to have a very permeable barrier between people who present with physical symptoms and people who present with mental health systems, because they need both services many times. So that is a really big improvement. A lot of smoothness and ability to actually see a lot more people.
Well, and of course, we have bennies who may be taking most of their classes over at St. John's, right? And they'll be able to take advantage of those resources there just as they would on the St. Ben's campus. And the same is true for our Johnnies.
Yes, we'll also have COVID testing at both campuses. That COVID testing was restricted to St. Ben's last year. And while it worked out fine, it's nice to also have an ability to do outside of the health center testing. So basically a person walks up to the window at St. John's and can be tested for COVID without actually entering the health center. So that's a very big improvement. A student wanting to get a COVID test needs to be able to be proximate to that test. And so that is a big, a very good development.
I think it's really encouraging, and I think good for people to know that you and leadership here are tending to the whole person, right, of the student, and recognizing the significant changes. And even as people are excited about it and excited to be back on campus and all of that, there's still support that students need.
And most of you know that my background is in student affairs and athletics and admission, and the dean of students never leaves you. So when I was here at St. Ben's before, I was a dean of students, and so I always look at this position through the lens of student lives. And one of the things I said today at the health service is that students who don't get proper healthcare, mental health care or physical health care, very often leave without making their dream of graduation come true.
Right.
Very often. And when it's very it's proven here by numbers and a lot of other things that students who get the mental and physical health care that they need do extraordinarily well in continuation of their education to graduation. And so if we provide that, we know that not only is that a retention strategy, it's a life-changing strategy. That person can complete what they came here to do. So like I said, the Dean of Students never leaves you.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that St. Ben's has such a high graduation rate, right? Is
Yes.
that we pay attention to things like that.
Yeah.
I want to dig in a little bit more. Of course, this fall across the nation, we've been experiencing this rise in the Delta variant of COVID. Yeah. So what changes, what's happening as a result of that on campus?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We have last year, I think it's safe to say, since many of you have looked at our dashboard, we had about 875 cases of COVID last year. So clearly about a third of our students have been infected with COVID. We know that because we did the tests here, or we did the tests at where the Department of Public Health could tell us how many tests. Many of our students were asymptomatic, completely asymptomatic, or very mildly symptomatic. And what you might not know is that the first semester we struggled with testing, the state of Minnesota did not give us tests for non-symptomatic people. And so because the vast majority of our students had very low levels of symptoms or no symptoms, we were not able to test around them. And so our strategy, unfortunately, led to lots of cases. Not a lot of lost class time, but a lot of cases. So we did something very different the second semester and had a lot of testing capacity and had 25 cases in the second semester. So I think we realized what we couldn't do in the first semester that we did in the second semester, and that was very beneficial. But our students made no bones about it, and so did we. We need to do something different for this year because that is just not an option. It's too dangerous of an option, and it's just not a good option for us. So we did ask every student and every faculty and staff person to be vaccinated or to have an exemption. We are happy to say that as of today, we are over 90% vaccinated amongst students at St. Ben's and St. John's and our faculty and staff. We have a low level of exemptions, less than 9% for students and less than 8% for faculty and staff. And as a result of that, and as a result of very consistent testing with our non-vaccinated, meaning exempt students who aren't vaccinated for some medical reason or religious exemption, we've only had 12 cases. And we expect that very low level of cases will continue with our highly vaccinated population. The other thing that we did, because we asked every student to have at least one vaccination by the time that they returned on August 26th, we do know that some of our students are not fully protected yet. And many have gotten their second vaccination, but not everybody has reached the point in time where they would be fully protected. And so we did ask everyone to mask in indoor spaces. At this point in time, our students have been very, very beneficial, that we have not had any real incidents of people not, paying attention to that. Occasionally we have to ask a student to do something, but all compliance. We expect that if our vaccination rate rises above 90%, and it has, and we have a case count that is lower than 1%, the Minnesota Department of Public Health has told us that we could unmask. They consider us fully vaccinated. So by the time we can measure when students have their second dose and when they are fully protected, we will roll back our mask mandate. Faculty and staff are still allowed in their office or in the classroom to ask for the masks to be used. So that is particularly with people who have, either friends or family members or child that might, be concerned about that. You will have some autonomy, but we are likely to get rid of that mask mandate at the point in time where we believe that all of our students are fully vaccinated. And we are very much looking forward to that if we can do that.
Oh, that's great. Well, there's kind of a COVID-related story that I think is a happy one, and that's that a couple of weeks ago, we hosted a kind of a makeup commencement ceremony for the class of 2020. And of course, the class of 2020 kind of during the spring of their senior year had to almost immediately turn around and go home, and a commencement ceremony was just not at all possible for them. So a couple of weeks ago, we invited all of our class of 2020, both Benny's and Johnny's, back to campus. We held commencement, and it was wonderful. But I want people to hear from you about what
Yes.
that day was like and what we heard from students and parents.
When this idea was floated, I really got a mental picture of how unceremoniously our students had to leave. You know, there was a lot of tears, there were a lot of, you know, uncertainty and so forth. And so it was a very difficult time for our students. I wasn't here, of course, at the time, so I didn't know them. But I was still very concerned over time that we really wouldn't have very many people come back to that kind of commencement. They've been out for over a year. Would they ever really want to come back? And well, they did. So about over 400 students and their parents and many family members came back for the loveliest of ceremonies outdoors. And we had a blast. It was a wonderful experience. People were in caps and gowns. People were not. People were, I mean, it was just everybody, everything. It was wonderful. The two student speakers could not have been better. It was a tribute to St. Ben's and St. John's. And I got probably more comments, email and just in-person comments from parents about the fact that this was needed. So it was a wonderful event, and I'm very, very glad we did it. The advancement staff did a fabulous job.
The whole community pulled together to do it. And I think we ended up with about 1,400 people total between graduates and their guests coming. So it was wonderful. And we were blessed with amazing weather. So that was pretty incredible. We came back to St. Ben's then for a beautiful reception afterwards. It was wonderful. The parent who said, you know, when she first heard about this, she said, oh, I don't know, really, do we need to do this? And she said, I spent the last half hour, she told me, you know, in tears, you know, just because it was so moving and so beautiful. It's great. It was great to do that. And, you know, just as it was really fun to kind of properly celebrate these graduates, it was also, as we mentioned earlier, just really joyful to welcome new students onto campus. And so I think to give everybody kind of a sense of what's going on with our admissions and enrollment efforts, maybe you can update everybody.
Yeah, I was saying this to some friends that by the time noon came on the day of first year move-in, we had all but about 10 people here. It was like an early morning rush. We can't wait to be here. So it was very wonderful, you know, feeling of our students are really, really excited about being able to come in person, to move into the residence halls and to get their school year started. So we had a slightly smaller class than we have had in the past, about 389 students. We think that the pandemic really affected us far more than it affected St. John's and some other institutions. So we got to bounce back from that. We're looking forward to doing that. We have a new admission plan. We're very excited about some of the new things that are going to happen. So we had 489 first year students, just a little over 30 transfer students, and we filled our cohort for our first doctoral program, nurse practitioner program. We actually ended up taking one additional student over the cohort number that we thought we were going to have. And so I believe that tomorrow is their first class. And so you can all be cheering for the first post-baccalaureate degree ever offered at St. Ben's, and nurse practitioner will start up with a bang tomorrow. So we're very much looking forward to that. Thankful to the nursing department. We can take up to 18 students in our first year. We are at 13 students right now, and we'll get those additional 5 placements within the community and be able to have 18 students in our first cohort. So we thought we'd have 12, and here we are. So I'm very excited about that. A couple of things that you might want to know about the class as a whole between St. John's and St. Ben's. The class of 2025, which my goodness makes me feel old to say that, but that's what it is, the class of 2025. At St. Ben's, the average GPA was 3.7, which is really good. We had students from 18 different states and 5 countries. 184 first generation students between the 2 institutions, 100 students of color, 300 legacy students. So someone else in their family has come to St. John's and St. Ben's before, and numerous valedictorians and salutatorians. The quality of the class is really good. At St. John's, 20 states represented and 5 different countries, and the average GPA is about 3.5. So we compete largely against the University of Minnesota and St. Thomas. Those are our 2 biggest cross applicants. I will tell you that the University of Minnesota used all of their power and money to have a record class this year. And so we're happy for them. St. Thomas did not probably have a record class, but we still, those are our 2 competitors, which we watch very, very carefully. One of the things that I think might be helpful for you to know is a lot of alums have commented that they really haven't seen a lot of marketing, particularly in the Twin Cities, over the last couple of years. And I would concur, and I don't like it. And we have just hired one of the best marketing professionals that I could imagine. She started August 1st. Her name is Katie Alvino, and she comes to us from a long corporate marketing situation, but last was at the University of Minnesota. So I'm happy to report that she is on the job and doing some things within our marketing that we have not done for a number of years. And I think what you will see is many more stories pitched, much more social media action, much more reach into the, particularly into further into central Minnesota, and certainly into the Twin Cities, where we really have not done a very good job. We have to sort of shore up our own backyard here, and I would consider the Twin Cities that. So one of the things that you could do as an alum, there's many things which I'm going to say just now, but we need you. We really do. We need you to comment to people about the marketing that we do. So if you see a billboard, you see something on social media, please post, please put that on your Facebook. Please, march along with us on the media that you might happen to see. Second is we last year doubled the number of referrals from alums. That shows up in a lot of times in our legacies and with our teachers. And so we're doing a special class of things for teachers. So if you happen to be a teacher and you want to be a part of it, please let us know. But if you want to be a part of our alum referral program, please just call somebody in our office and we will walk you through just what you need to do. If you also want to do something that would be speaking in class, doing a mentoring kind of situation, we also have that too. And you might say, well, I wonder how that would help in admission. And I'll tell you how it does. The student that you might be mentoring or the class in which you might be speaking, that student has a group, of high school friends and other friends. They might tweet out what happened today. They might, talk about the things that you would have talked about. That really helps us a lot. Our students love, and I mean love, to hear from alums, successful alums in their particular field. It is a huge thing. So if you have an opportunity or you have time to do any of those things, referring a student, it could be somebody from your neighborhood, your grandchild's friends, or your child's friends. It could be somebody from church. It could be a lot of different things. But if you have access to young people, we want to talk to you. And then last but not least, I would say every time you get an award, you get promoted, you talk about yourself, please say that you are an alum of St. Ben's. You don't know how much that helps us. We repost every award, every promotion. And as we watch our alums do better and better and better in their field, whatever that is, it is a cause for celebration here. And it's a cause for our students to say, if another alum can do that, I can too. So it's a cause for inspiration.
You're so right. And we often talk about how we've got this double whammy of kind of Midwestern and Benedictine humility. And all of us need to get beyond that, right? And to be able to kind of own our success and talk about it in the context of St. Ben's. For any of you who want to help out in any of these ways, all you need to do is to be in touch with anybody in alum relations or institutional advancement. Reach out to me, reach out to Anne or Val, and we will connect you with the places where you can make a difference.
Yeah.
Also want to remind people that if you as an alum refer a student, they automatically will receive $1,000 scholarship. So there is $1,000 alum referral scholarship
per year.
Yes, per year. So that's it's a great benefit to the student and kind of fun to know that you can make a difference in that way as well. I probably, Laurie would be mad at me if, as Vice President for Advancement, I didn't also remind you of one other way you can help with admissions, and that's by supporting our annual fund always. And 100% of which goes to support directly student scholarships. And we know that student scholarships make a big difference in terms of our enrollment. So thank you for all of those ways.
Yes.
I want to.
If you've never supported our scholarship, I just wanted to tell you that one of the things that will happen to you if you do that is our students will write you a note, probably, and maybe multiple notes. And I often get have people take a picture of the note and send me a note about the note that they got from the student, because from the heart, they will tell you that it's changed their life in order for them to be able to come to St. Ben's. And that's always a wonderful way to connect with students if you can.
Yeah, that's right, Laurie. I want to switch gears now just a minute to a topic that I think people have lots of questions about and that they've been hearing about for past really couple of years now, and that is strong integration. So before we get into a conversation about it, I would like ask if you could remind us all what exactly is strong integration and what's happening with it at St. Ben's.
Well, all of you know that we have been in a coordinate relationship with St. John's for many years. So if you've gone to school here in the last 30 years, you probably remember taking the bus back and forth to a class at St. Ben's and St. John's. And in essence, the academic aspects of our institutions have been in partnership, which we have always called the coordinate relationship. I would describe strong integration as the next evolution, not revolution, but an evolution of that coordinate relationship. So for about the past 3 years, our board members have been talking about the future of these two places, how to make sure that we are in the best possible position to be agile and nimble, which in the world of higher education right now is absolutely critical. How to make sure that we are keeping the very specific missions that we have, we're proud of, and we want to keep. How do we keep those separate while doing the things together that make us agile and nimble for the future? This is what the board has been talking about. And in everything, from the very biggest things that we do to the very smallest thing. And I can give you an example. They would say, is it necessary for us to have separate leadership for women? Is it helpful for us to have separate athletic departments? Is it helpful for us to have separate residence halls? I think everyone would say, unquestionably, it is better for us. It's part of our mission. But they would probably also say, is it important that students can pay their bill at St. Ben's and St. John's? 90% of them pay their bill online anyway. So do we have to have an office there and an office here? So I think part of stronger integration is how do we become agile, nimble, really good at everything we do to serve students where it matters together? And then how do we do those things which is every bit a part of who we are to keep apart? And to get a little bit more specific with that. So that they have been talking about our structure as a board, because this is part of what they need to do as a board, and governance and executive leadership is really the most on their mind. So strong integration is about what's next for governance and for executive leadership. And so the one area that has already been announced and was part of what we said is pending our approval from Higher Learning Commission, which we'll get to in just a minute, but is that we would search for a single president between the two institutions. It's really important. But they would also say that the other aspect of governance, which is really important and became more and more important to strong integration as we've gotten further along, was to have a unified board. So the proposal is to have two boards, one for St. Ben's and one for St. John's, with fiduciary responsibility to make those institutions each strong, but made up of the same people. So we think that that's a very novel thing. Again, we'll get to that in a minute, but strong integration is mostly about three buckets when you get right down to it. Strong integration is about two boards made up of the same people working together, one single president between the two institutions, and a streamlined administrative structure that would allow that single president to be successful. So those are the three buckets if you want to sort of.
That's a great introduction. And you mentioned the Higher Learning Commission. They were just on campus last week. And, you know, I doubt if many people know what the Higher Learning Commission is or why they matter. What do they have to do with strong integration?
Yeah, well, like lots of industries, like the healthcare industry or banking, if you're in banking or healthcare, you're not going to know this right as soon as I start talking about it. Higher education is regulated by a group. There's actually 7 groups across the nation, and we are regulated by one particular group called the Higher Learning Commission. Without their approval, we could not receive or distribute federal financial aid or state aid. So it's very important that we are accredited by the Higher Learning Commission, or HLC. That's what we call them. They have a way of operating every 10 years. If you are a very good institution, every 10 years they will come and visit you. They expect a very lengthy report that talks about 5 criterion that are important to them. We have always done extraordinarily well at St. Ben's and St. John's in the Higher Learning Commission's regular process of accreditation. It has always been a very strong part of what we do. They send a team, they read your report, they usually visit for 2 or 3 or 4 days, they write another report, and then they decide whether you should be accredited for the next 10 years. That is the standard process. For something like the strong integration, where we were actually significantly changing our board, significantly changing our executive leadership, the Higher Learning Commission called that something that they call change of structure. So we were required, prior to doing those 2 steps of the board and the executive leadership changes, to ask the HLC through a series of documents and a visit to support or not support those moves. And their criterion for HLC's visit was really like, are those changes going to be beneficial for us in advancing higher education? So they sent, well, first of all, we sent them an 850-page document that outlined everything that we wanted to do, a 3-year culmination of our board's work, including new bylaws and new joint operating agreement and all kinds of legal documents. And it was well, speaking as a lawyer, it was a beautiful thing. The team came on Monday and Tuesday. They had a wonderful visit with many board members, faculty, staff, students, our accountants and our auditors, the executive director of Catholic colleges and universities in the country. And they wrote a report on leaving. We got that on Friday, and that report was given to us just to correct facts, anything that would be wrong. And I'm happy to say that they gave us a ringing endorsement. So they will deliver that report to their board at the Higher Learning Commission in November. And we should be able to move forward by mid-November with 2 things. One is we would have 60 days to reconstitute our boards in the way that we have suggested we will, and to complete the transaction, so to speak, in voting for new board members and voting on all of these legal documents that we have already put in our application.
The other thing it allows us, and the other thing it allows us to do then is to really start a search for the joint president. And we're doing the pre-work right now, right? So tell us about what's going on now and what's going to happen over the course of the year.
Yeah, it's actually a really exciting week this week. I've been really charged up about what we're doing. We have a wonderful search consultant from academic search, who has done the search, my search, and also did the search for Jim Mullen, my fantastic co-president at St. John's. He's just been wonderful.
And the search for Mary Hinton. I think
our
people would be interested to know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Kathy. They've really done an excellent job over the last couple of years, and Mary's search was a wonderful search. The two consultants that they sent to us are here for the entire week. Because this is such a new thing that we're doing, and because people have a lot of feelings and thoughts about a single president between the two institutions, we asked them to bring an additional search consultant and stay for a week. Usually these are the kind of things where they stay for 2 or 3 days. My, I don't know, just plain spokenness to them is nobody leaves until everybody said what they wanted to say. So I think they got that message loud and clear first day on the job, and we are having tremendous group sessions. They did last night at 9 o'clock. Oh goodness, brave people, with the St. John's Student Senate holding an open forum for students. So we're everything from students, faculty who have been involved in searches in the past, our alumni board, our leadership council. This will be part of what they would do to begin. Community members, our cabinet and leadership team folks, just all the different people across campus will have an opportunity to weigh in early on what does the prospectus look like. I think one of the biggest misnomers of searches is the most important time to be involved is at the end when you're choosing somebody. Actually, the most important time is to be a part of the writing of what is expected from somebody, so that we really invite the right people to come as candidates. So we have a search committee named. It is made up of 21 people. You might ask why we did that. We think that, again, representation is extraordinarily important. And so that just required a lot of different people from St. John's and St. Ben's and our monastic community and our alums and our wonderful trustees. So we have lots of people on the search committee. We have lots of people participating this week, and it's all internal work. Once we receive HLC's okay, which we intend to receive by mid-November, you all will be able to see an externally facing website that will tell you all along what has been communicated, who the search committee is, what's the schedule for, just the entire search. And you'll see the prospectus there that is a product of the work that we're doing this week. So all of those things will be shown to the public, but we can't do that until the HLC gives us approval. So we're doing that this week, and we hope to maybe as early as November 10th, we'll be able to put that website live on our website.
And the search will then happen over the winter, and our intent is to have a joint president named, I think, in the spring, right? To start in the summer by July 1, maybe, or something.
Yes, so we're hoping to have somebody in place by July 1st. That's kind of the normal cycle, I guess, for presidents, but we're really enthused about what that will mean for St. John's and St. Ben's, and we're going to do it right.
You'll also, all of you who are listening, will have a chance to submit nominations too. Once you see that website, there'll be places where you can nominate individuals and give feedback that way. So it's a really exciting time, and we've talked about this may be the most consequential presidential search and selection in our college's history. So your involvement is really important. In the midst of all of this, between, strong integration, presidential searches, COVID, getting back to school, all of this going on, you might think there's not really all that much time to do anything else, but that is far from the truth, right? Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of really great kind of program developments, things that are happening on campus. You mentioned earlier our graduate program in nursing, and our first cohort of students starting tomorrow, which is super exciting. I guess, is there anything else you'd want to add about the nursing program for everybody?
Well, we the master's aspect of this will start in earnest in January, and so they're really working on that program. There's several aspects of the master's program. Some will lead into the DMP. Some are master's programs standalone. So we're excited about that because we think that there's really a market. What I didn't say about our DMP program is that with almost no advertising and with our accreditation coming as late as July, we filled up our cohort in about 2 weeks. And so there is pent-up demand for our programs. And we did have people wanting to do our master's program, which isn't quite there yet. So I'm really looking forward to having to hire some more faculty in this area because we have students who want to do more and more. Our faculty in the nursing program have been some of the most innovative individuals on campus, the most committed to program development. It's very exciting to see. I know we'll see a boost in our undergraduate nursing numbers because of that. But we've also have a few other programs that have taken place in the health areas. I think that it's really a little bit of a hub here. And I want to tell you about some of those programs because they're really important to the history and mission of the Benedictine Sisters. I mean, this is how they started with us and the hospital. And so I think it strikes really at the heart of our mission to serve others. And so I'm happy for the program development that's starting to happen in this hub space, because not only is it great from our mission perspective, but it's great serving the community. I always say when your community need and your faculty expertise and some alum support, sometimes in the form of money, sometimes in the form of, just wanting to come to school here, sometime in the form of being, executives at Centricare and other places. When those three things come together, you see, really good enrollment. And that's exactly what we saw this year. But some of you might not know that we just started a couple of years ago an exercise science program. And that was another thing where community need, faculty expertise. And I have to tell you, it's the fastest growing program that we have right now. Students wanting to do pre-athletic training, pre-PT, exercise science, careers of other types, wanting to go into sports and hospital work as far as fitness goes. And so it's a fast growing major and it's very interdisciplinary, and I'm excited about that. That was a couple of years ago that we started that, but the growth is just monumental. So I want you to know that. But just this year, we're in the process of doing global health. That's a big deal. Minor in narrative practice. You might not even know what narrative practice is, but it's a combination of English and helping patients in healthcare settings write about the kinds of things that are happening with them. And our students are at Centricare, our students are in several different locations, actually facilitating narrative practices, teaching doctors how to do narrative practice with their patients. And it's helped numerous people get into medical school, physical therapy school, and other things to have this minor. And it came out of the English department. Again, just some of the most wonderful interdisciplinary items I could imagine. When you look at the testimonials from individuals who are in medical school and PT school, they will say that having a narrative practice minor is the thing, or having a narrative practice class is one of the things that set them apart as a candidate. And,
well, learning how to take kind of complex information and data and tell a story with it is kind of what it's all about. And that helps people not only in the health sciences, right, but in so many areas. I want to move on to talk about some really great progress that we're making in our commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. Our commitment continues to grow, and it's being expressed in some really important ways. And I know Anne has some pictures that she maybe will show as you're just telling us about some of the things that are going on.
Well, tomorrow we are opening our first multicultural center at St. Ben's and St. John's. And this is a picture of it. It doesn't quite look like that yet, but it's going to. The outside is the last part to get done. So I think everything will be mostly like this. But this is a complete renovation of one floor of Murray Hall at St. Ben's, and an outside space The space will have a couple of things that I think are really important for you to know. One is some straight student hangout space that can be also, and you see that here in Anne's picture, but that can also be set for a small lecture, group study, group things, but it will be a place where all are welcome, and our students, our BIPOC students and our first generation students, our LGBTQ students and our students that are low income students will be welcoming people to their space. And I'm very excited about the community building that will happen here. Our multicultural student services staff has been restructured, and they couldn't be happier about the kind of mentoring, leadership, and activities that they might be able to do in this space. The thing that you can't see in this picture is that around this space, kind of almost like arms around the space, are all of the student services, the multicultural student services that one would expect. So there will be all of our multicultural students, student services will be there, our campus ministry, our students, all of the things like AIM, and which is our Advocates for Inclusive Mentoring. There'll be a resource room, or LGBTQ resource room. All of the services that one might expect will be surrounding. I guess you can see the doors there, but all around this area, and really be able to have very good access to student services that are needed. But when those student services staff are not there, there's also a way to get in and out. And so we expect this hangout space to be used on the weekends, in the evenings and the late nights. And I'm very excited about what we're going to see. This was really a brainchild of a number of our students. They came to see Jean and I last year, and they said, we would love it if there was a space that was both hangout space and services. We'd like it open a lot of hours, and we think it needs to be in the heart of the campus. I think we did that.
We've met all
and
of
so
that.
It's opening tomorrow, and I couldn't be happier. We're really excited about it. We invited our board. Excuse me, it'll happen on Thursday. I'm sorry, not tomorrow, on Thursday. And that is just one aspect of the commitment to short-term commitment to DEIJ. We also named a coordinating committee that I think will really be helpful. They already have been just immensely helpful for us in what are the next steps to not just serve our students very well. That's really, really important, but what are the next steps in DEIJ across our entire community? So what kinds of hiring and training, and what other things are available for us to be doing in the areas of DEIJ that would add to our student success? What kinds of curricular things, what kind of faculty things, what kind of evaluation things? All of these things are not really in the purview of our multicultural student services staff. And in the past, we've expected them to be over all of these other things that I think really need an institutional organizational look. So the coordinating committee did suggest that we hire a senior diversity officer that would be on our leadership team. We have a small task team working on that. We expect to be able to do that by January 1st. And that person would really have overarching diversity, equity, and justice, all of the things that would have in their job description would be in diversity, equity, and justice, but across our campus, working with faculty and our human resources areas, our technology areas, policies and procedures, working with our general counsel. We are very excited about that, and it's time that we do that. So we think by January 1st, that will be in place. I think many of you read our beautiful magazine last about Ted Gordon's work with our Indigenous students. If you haven't, we would be happy to send you a copy. It's wonderful. That area of research has led to some wonderful aspects, not just media coverage, but also some wonderful ability to reach out to White Earth Nation, to many other tribes. We're going to be doing some things in the spring to bring tribal leaders here. Our Indigenous student group is up and running. And so what you see in terms of research has sparked other things that have been extraordinarily beneficial on our campus. And that
it's been
research
exciting.
Yeah, yeah. That research work will also really lead us to some reconciliation work we will facilitate some reconciliation work between
Right.
our monastery and these tribal nations in terms of the boarding schools. And that it has started with the research. One of our students said, it's Laurie, before there's reconciliation, there's truth. So
Right.
we have to go truth and reconciliation. And I thought that was a beautiful way of talking about the research work gets to the truth of what happened and the reasons for it. And you read about that in the magazine, and then comes reconciliation.
And I think it's important too that people know that our students have been doing much of that research. So certainly under the guidance of Professor Gordon, but the students themselves are very much at the heart of this effort. And I think that's really important as well. We're also doing some targeted fundraising in the area of DEIJ work. So we're raising some money for that programming, but also very significant money in addition to our annual fund, in addition to our endowment fundraising for scholarships for our students of color, low income, first gen, all of those folks as well. I want to switch to another thing that you and Jim have announced that's kind of new and really exciting. You announced this at our opening community forum that you and Jim are leading the creation of an innovation fund on campus. So tell us about the innovation fund and I guess more importantly, what you hope it accomplishes.
Sure. Yeah, at the opening of the school year, we announced a commitment of $100,000 to help our faculty and staff think of new things that they think would be beneficial to St. Ben's and St. John's, whether that would be recruitment oriented, new programs, ways to attract more students to come here or to have a better experience while they are here, or to save money. And what we found a lot of times with faculty and staff is they'd say, I have all these ideas, but I don't have the time or money to implement them. And so we decided that this kind of fund could assist in both problems. If they don't have enough money to do something, and it would be very beneficial, we're always stunned at the small amount of investment that can lead to really big ideas. This was very evident in nursing, small investment, big idea. So the other thing that we're able to do, obviously, is that there's a price for time to, faculty member, we could, either give them a stipend or ask them not to teach a course and pay them for it, to give them the time that they need to help us understand new ideas. I think that there's many ways to help people innovate, but it is the name of the game in higher education at this point in time. And we have very limited innovation funding. We're a little behind in this area. Both Jim and I realized it. And so we just made a commitment to do it and announced it. And all of the details will be going out this week.
That's exciting to hear about. I know we want to make sure we have time for a couple questions from the audience, but one more question though, before we get to that, because I think it's a really important one. Many people listening may have seen recent articles in the Wall Street Journal and Forbes that have really featured CEOs talking about how important liberal arts graduates are. They're saying really publicly and pretty widely that liberal arts education produces the kind of employees and leaders that are needed in the 21st century. So what does that mean to you? What does it mean to be a liberal arts college for the 21st century?
Absolutely. Well, we have to be a liberal arts college that's poised for the 21st century. We opened the school year with inviting Georgia Nugent, one of the foremost experts in the 21st century liberal arts, to come and speak to our faculty and staff at the opening. It was wonderful. And she made a lot of recommendations about what we might want to do to be nimble and able and agile to do things in the 21st century with our liberal arts undergraduate degree. And 2 books really came out of that discussion that I want to recommend to you. One is a book called Robot Proof. And it really talked about how liberal arts are best positioned to not be taken over by artificial intelligence into the future in their jobs. It's written by Joseph Aoun, A-O-U-N, a wonderful book. And another book that I read by George Anders called You Can Do Anything, The Surprising Power of a Useless Liberal Arts Degree. It's a very interesting book loaded with just ideas about what the liberal arts could produce and how to produce good liberal arts graduates that are employable. I think St. John's and St. Ben's have done a fantastic job of this. And in fact, you've seen some of our billboards that say that Zippia for the 4th or 5th year in a row have claims on us as the #1 and 2 institution in Minnesota for jobs. We are 1 and 2. We get jobs. And so I think that that's one of the little tidbits of information you can use in terms of referring students to us, is that you'll get a great liberal arts education, broad, deep, wide, as you know, but you'll also get a job. And so I just wanted to give you a couple little examples of how this is real at St. Ben's and St. John's. I asked Anne if she would please give me just a couple of names, and within a day, she gave me 4 names of the most interesting liberal arts alums. You probably know them and what they're doing. So can I just take 1 minute to do this, and then we'll go to questions? But these are alums that graduated in liberal arts and are doing some amazing things, and what they attribute it to. First of all, I'm going to tell you a little story about Megan Peterson Christofield, class of 07, peace studies majors. So that right there, she said that the most impactful experiences that she had besides her major were study abroad, internships, and independent studies, going deeper with a faculty member about something that she wanted to do, which turned out to be working for a global nonprofit that works to prevent needless deaths of women and their families around the world. And she works as a technical advisor for an organization called JPEGO. I tried to pronounce that right. I'm sure I murdered it. But taking a peace studies major and all of the study abroad experiences that she sort of pinpointed to humanitarian causes and making them work. And so just think that that's a really interesting use of that liberal arts major. Cammie Longstreet Zimmer, class of 93, who was a government major, or political science major, as we call it now. She's a business officer at Glimpse, and she was just voted a notable woman in technology by Twin Cities magazine. And part of what they talked about was that she had helped triple the sales revenue of the company and increased their partnerships and encouraged women all along the way. And then just one more that I think is just unbelievably interesting, and that is Suzanne Spellacy, who's the class of 87, who majored in English and is the general counsel for the Minnesota Lynx and Timberwolves. She said in her interview that listening was the #1 thing that she really learned in her job. In her time at St. Ben's, and that major in English made all the difference. So, and then last, Angela Gensel, who's a class of 2010 sociology major. She said that what she learned at St. Ben's, advocacy and the value of learning all along the way, doing new things and volunteering in places that you might not know a lot about. She is a 6th-generation farmer and now a seed company entrepreneur. So this book, You Can Do Anything, The Surprising Power of a Useless Liberal Arts Education, is played out over and over and over and over again at St. Ben's and St. John's.
That's great to hear. We see those stories multiplied all over the place. So I know we've talked a long time, but Anne, I hope we've got time for at least a question or two.
Yeah, just one quick question from Teresa. She was asking about flu shots being offered on campus this year. I believe that's the case every year. So I don't have dates in front of us, but we will definitely make sure the students know about that.
Yes.
We also have a question from Kelly Smith. She's asking, how much is St. Ben's and St. John's financial situations driving the need for stronger integration? And will the cost savings help better ensure the institution's viability long-term, especially with the enrollment challenges that liberal arts schools are facing?
Yes. Well, first of all, I think I do believe that the challenges that we have on the enrollment side, I do believe we will fix those. I think that there are some program launches and some things that are happening. We had a great meeting today just about what are the very, very most important things that we need to do in terms of program development. And I'm very optimistic about our enrollment challenges over the next year. Very, very optimistic. So hopefully we will solve that problem independently of anything else. But yes, I do believe that there will be some savings that will help us go into the future in a better situation. Some of those savings will be, of course, a more streamlined administrative structure. Certainly, having one president will be a savings, certainly, but in other ways too, we'll have a different type of administrative structure, and I do believe that that will be a savings. But the other surprising area of savings is we're going to do a study this spring on space. About 10 years ago, we did the same kind of study with our faculty. We put certain programs on certain campuses, and we consolidated our faculty, and that was really beneficial. I think we will do the same thing with our administrative areas here. We'll really closely examine what should be on which campus, and to see if there are some staff savings where areas where staffing a place at St. Ben's and a place at St. John's where they don't need to in the future.
Thanks. Any other questions, Anne, from the group? We're at 8 o'clock, I see.
We are at 8 o'clock. Yes, no, I think we're good to go here, Kathy.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for being with us this evening. It's all the time we have tonight. It's always great to have Laurie with us. I'm going to turn it over to Anne as Laurie and I log off. We want to thank all of you for listening, and of course, you can always be sending us questions anytime about things that may occur to you after this session. So, Anne, we'll say goodbye now.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. And thank you to President Laurie Hamen for joining us tonight. Audience, you can share additional questions or comments on tonight's episode through the evaluation form that will be emailed to you by the Alumni Relations team. This concludes our first episode of the Fall 2021 St. Ben's at Home series. Join us next month, where we will feature Jen Kasurik, President of the St. Ben's Alumni Association, and Liz Hamick, the CSB Student Senate Community Relations Representative. Jen and Liz will talk about alumni in the life of the college. You don't want to miss this one. You can find additional details about the St. Ben's at Home series on our new landing page listed here. We will also share this link in the evaluation email you will receive soon. Thank you all for attending, and have a great evening.